Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today I'm going to talk about step 10, which is where we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And this is one of my favorite steps, not only because the inventory that I take at the end of each day gives me a chance to really think back through the day and find any places where I might have been in the wrong and figure out what to do to correct them, but because the idea of step 10 actually guides my actions throughout the day. And the way I behave throughout the day is where the spiritual awakening that occurred in the 12 steps actually manifests. And that's when I really start to see the promises of the program take hold in my life. You know, when I think about the promises of the program, I don't think about the rewards that I get, like the material awards. I think about the material rewards. I think more about the reward of seeing my behavior change and seeing my reaction to the world change. And being able to see myself not get angry in situations where I used to get angry, or not get resentful in situations where I might be resentful. That's the freedom that the program gives. So, you know, I don't do the program of the 12 steps because I'm expecting riches or lots of friends or any material rewards from it. I'm doing it because the reward is in watching my behavior grow more and more toward the spiritual ideas and ideals and values that I've discovered in the 12 steps and that I want to guide my life. So all of that being said, step 10 is really one of the big ones that helps me get there. And I'm going to read some from Tommy Rosen's Recovery 2.0, where he talks about what step 10 looks like. He says, the 10th step is a mini 4th step that we do each day. When resentment arises, we take notice and focus in on our side of the street. If we have been dishonest and noticed it, we fix it as soon as it is possible. Perhaps we were hurtful, impatient, or cross with someone. We apologize and own it completely. And so step 10 is where we are paying attention to what we're doing. And when we do something that isn't appropriate, when we do something that runs counter to the spiritual values that are guiding our lives now, we try to fix it. We apologize when things come up. If we get a resentment, we work a mini 4th step on it immediately, calling our sponsors if necessary. We take care of keeping our side of the street clean as the trash starts to accumulate. So we don't let the trash build up. We just keep sweeping that street. Step 10 is where I started to really pay attention more and more throughout the day to the way that I was thinking. You start to become more mindful of what is happening inside your head, how that relates to your behavior toward others, and how it relates even to your behavior toward yourself. All of this comes back to mindfulness, being mindful of what's happening inside your head, what's happening inside your body, how your actions relate to all of that. So step 10 is also a place where I find that mindfulness meditation really helps me connect with the work that has to happen in step 10. We'll get more into meditation and daily meditation in step 11 tomorrow. But for now, the important part of it is mindfulness meditation helps me be cognizant of what's happening up here. It helps me to see what's happening in my brain and see what's happening with my thoughts so that they don't run away with me. That's when I get into trouble. When my thoughts and my actions run away with me, that's when I find myself in situations where I have to apologize later, where I start to build resentments, that kind of thing. So it's really important to keep an eye on your actions, your thoughts throughout the day. And then step 10 is also where we take a personal inventory at the end of the day. And it's kind of funny. I thought for a long time, actually until this morning, I really was focused more on step 10 as the inventory at the end of the day step. And what you do with this inventory is you go through, I have an app on my phone that's designed to help with the 10th step inventory. And you just go through a series of questions and think about, were there any places where I had a resentment today that I need to resolve? Do I owe someone an apology? Was I kind and loving to everybody I met? Did I reach out to someone else in recovery? Did I take time to connect with my higher power? And you think through all of these things and you identify places where not that you're not going to dwell on these things. You're not going to beat yourself up about them. But if you see any places for improvement tomorrow, then you're going to take note of those and try to improve the next day. And if you see any places where you need to discuss something with someone else or make an apology, you do that either that evening if they're available or the next day if they're not. And so that inventory is an important part of step 10. And for me, it was life-changing. Because that's where I started to become more mindful of my actions. And through that reflection, I was able to look back and see places where I had been less than considerate to others, where I had been upset when I really should not have been, where I was trying to take control where it wasn't appropriate. But at one point in my early recovery, I was in a meeting where I talked about how much I loved step 10 and really equated it to just that inventory. And someone else in the meeting kind of got on to me and said, you've got to get this right. Step 10 is not the inventory. It's what happens between the time you wake up in the morning and the time you go to bed at night. And I always thought this person was wrong, because I kept going back to step 10 and it talked about taking a personal inventory. But I didn't realize until I was reading the way Tommy explained it this morning that step 10 is, while that personal inventory at the end of the day is a useful tool as a part of your step 10 work, step 10 is something that happens all day, every day. And this is where I think the work of the program really takes place, in monitoring what's happening inside of you, inside your brain, and monitoring and with your thoughts, and then monitoring the way you interact with the people around you, and then recognizing when that's inappropriate and doing what's needed to fix that. That's something we never did. We never did that kind of stuff in our addiction. We never paid attention to that kind of stuff. So to me, step 10 is the key to walking into a new spiritual way of living. And we could not be doing step 10 without having finished steps 1 through 9. So it's important to finish those steps before we really get into step 10. But I want to read one last thing that he says about step 10. He says, a well done 10th step is an amazing gift to ourselves that allows us to stay on the path to becoming the version of ourselves that we would hope to be. I find that to be so true, and this is why step 10 is so important to me. It's through step 10 that I've been able to look at how I behave in relation to the world around me, how I think in relation to the people around me, and to start to realize where that's not aligned with the values that I hold important and the values that I have said that I want to embody in life. Once I can start looking at that and seeing where these things are out of alignment, I get the opportunity to take action. So, as always, these steps are steps of action, and this action in step 10, the most important actions I take are with other people, where I go to someone and apologize for something, or where if there's something that I need to say to somebody, that I go talk to them rather than keeping it to myself and building a resentment up. These are the kinds of behaviors that we have to work on, and it's a daily thing, and it's something that we have to do the rest of our lives. Step 10 becomes a guideline for how do we do this in a constructive way, and learning how to talk to people, learning how to deal with difficult situations. That's all part of step 10 for me. But as long as I keep in my head the values, the spiritual values that I hold important, and use those as guideposts for how to move forward with that interaction, and consult with others when I feel like I need guidance, I think that I can't go wrong with incorporating this step into my life. And the daily reflection at the end of the day, the inventory I take to really look back and figure out, is there anything I missed about the way that things went that I need to fix? That has been an incredible gift to me, because sometimes in hindsight, places you thought you were doing the right thing, you realize maybe you should have done something different. But we don't dwell on it. We move forward, do the right thing, and keep going so that we can enjoy life, and so that we can enjoy the peace that comes with knowing that we're doing the right thing, especially through the work of step 10. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more.